100 years have passed since the accidental creation of Rattlesnake Lake, and it seems that Mother Nature decided to mark the occasion. Revealing the mysteries she has long been concealing. An even more unusual story has also been resurrected from a watery grave. A story of a small town that came to be in 1906. Moncton, Washington began as a railroad worker camp, soon to be joined by Seattle City Light and Water Department workers. Accompanied, of course, by their families. The town had wooden sidewalks, its own hotel, schoolhouse, and even an indoor swimming pool. There was a small seasonal pond at the far end of town that some residents called Rainy Day Lake. By 1915, Moncton was home to 34 families, numbering a total of 200 residents. Eventually, in 1911, J.D. Ross, the superintendent of Seattle City Light, decided it would be a good idea to rename Moncton to Cedar Falls. But to properly tell this town's story, we must go back to 1889 and the bustling young city of Seattle. Seattle had grown to 20,000 residents due to the strength of its timber and export industries. But all that progress was abruptly halted by the Great Seattle Fire of 1889. On the morning of June 6th, a fire that started from a boiling pot of glue in a woodworking shop eventually destroyed 25 city blocks, including the entire business district. Thousands of people were left homeless, and 5,000 men were without jobs. Tents sprouted up atop the ruins, and the people of Seattle banded together, determined to rebuild their city. After the abysmal performance of the city's water supply in fighting the fire, one of the first things done was to put to vote the overhaul of the city's water system. It passed overwhelmingly, and soon after, Mr. R.H. Thompson became the city engineer, and he already had his sights on the Cedar River watershed as a means of securing Seattle's future water supply. Initially, a wooden crib dam was built on the Cedar River, and 30 miles of water pipe leading into Seattle. The city allowed timber companies to harvest most of the trees first, which in turn made the land much cheaper to purchase. In just 1 year following the Great Fire, Seattle's population doubled to 40,000, mainly because of all the construction jobs. Then the Klondike Gold Rush in 1897 caused the greatest boom period for Seattle, resulting in the need for more power. Enter J.D. Ross, who was given responsibility in 1911 to oversee the construction of a new masonry dam and expanded power plant on the Cedar River. Construction began in 1912 and was considered at that time to be the largest concrete dam in the world. The masonry dam was completed in November of 1914, and so the new reservoir began the slow process of filling to capacity starting that winter. With the advent of spring and the usual northwest rains, the reservoir was rising as expected. But early summer brought with it something wholly unexpected. Springs of water began to randomly appear in and around the town of Cedar Falls. Residents began to take notice as sidewalks became submerged in the lower part of town. Water literally bubbling up out of the ground in various places. It was soon discovered that the land between the new reservoir that the masonry dam had created and the town of Cedar Falls was an ancient glacial moraine that was mainly porous silt and sand covered by forest. Although the townspeople were initially dismissive and believed that the waters would recede, it quickly became apparent that there was a real problem, for the water continued to rise. By late summer, the water had receded enough so that the city of Seattle, who had now purchased the town site, could come gather the remains into a great pile and burn them so as to quell concerns about possible contamination of the water supply. So ironically, you could say that the story of the town of Cedar Falls began and ended with a fire. As much as a year later, residents of the town were still trying to retrieve their belongings. And so ends the story of a town with a brief existence. What is now a well-used trail was once the lifeline that helped create this town. Sparse remains uncovered remind us of what was and what is now gone. and all those who lived here have also passed on. But perhaps bringing their memories to life will let their spirits live on.